Today I'm going to install and review two dash cams. The first is the KDLinks R100 mirror dash cam with 1296p resolution. The second is the Street Guardian 1080p dash cam with a wedge form factor. This one I've had on my previous car for several years, so it's a little old, but it's still a really high-rated dash cam. Both dash cams are similarly priced around $150 to $200 depending on sales. Fortunately, I picked up the R100 for only $130 during an Amazon Lightning deal. Let's look a little closer at the KDLinks R100. Here are some of the dimensions of the mirror dash cam. 12.5 inches wide, 3 inches high, and half an inch deep. On top of the unit is a MicroSD port and also a mini USB power port. On the bottom are buttons for controlling the menus. The dashcam is installed by using these rubber band-like straps to wrap around the car's mirror. Okay, in this part of the video, I'm going to be installing USB cable that goes in the 12-volt adapter, and I'm going to put it through the headliner, have it go down the side, underneath here, and all the way up here. One of the more difficult things to do right now in the Model 3 is to have a direct connection for a 12-volt device like a dashcam. Previous Teslas you could do this, but on the Model 3 there's a circuit that looks for 12-volt losses and it causes problems. So in my install I'm going to use the 12-volt power supply that's in the center console with a 2-amp USB adapter. I also temporarily hooked up a second mini USB cable to attach the other dashcam for use. By the way, it seems like many dashcams use mini USB for power. If the dashcam doesn't come with one, I would recommend getting a 4-meter or 13-foot cable, which should reach pretty much from wherever you install it to the power. You then have the option to use the front or rear USB ports as well as the 12-volt power port in the center console. Since I use the front ports for phones and USB flash drive music, I'm using the 12-volt power port. Another useful tip is to use a dual USB adapter for the power port in case you need additional USB power. The KDLinks also comes with a rear camera that connects to the mirror dashcam. The resolution takes a drop to record both streams. For my test, I'm only using the front view. If you do use the rear camera, the LCD screen shows a picture-in-picture view of the rear over the front image. On the SD card, there are separate video files for each camera. For my test, I set up both dashcams in what I think is their best location. The Street Guardian's wedge shape makes it a great fit over the autopilot sensor plastic cover. For each of the install and removal, I will use 3M command strips, which will use a Velcro type connection. They also can be removed without any residue. So I cut 2 strips to fit the size of the dashcam's attachment plate. Here's a view of where the USB cable is routed under the headliner. It comes out right around the base of the mirror. This is the top view of where the mini USB gets attached to the dashcam. Here's my USB plug adapter. Happens to be USB 3 and C in one package. It's also really small. The adapter barely pokes out from the power plug. Here's the Street Guardian starting up. I'm not going to review any of the menus or buttons on this dashcam because it is kind of old and some of the newer models may have different arrangements. The mini USB port is on top. And on the left side is a micro SD card. In my case, it's a 64 gigabyte card, which gives several hours of video. For dashcams that have a parking mode, like the KDLinks R100, a power bank using a fairly large battery is a good idea because it'll provide lots of power when the car is off. If you pick the right power bank, you can connect the car's USB to the power bank and have the battery charged while the car is running, while at the same time the dashcam connected to the power bank is also getting power from this battery. The R100 uses the left-hand side of the mirror for the LCD display. You can keep this on or have it turn off after a minute or so. Here are the menus for setting up the R100. Video quality, wide dynamic range, loop recording, sound recording, delay boot, and rear camera image. Auto off. Parking mode. Movement detection recording time, movement detection sensitivity, collision sensitivity, and collision recording time. G sensor, volume setting, backlight time, display brightness, flicker, and date stamp. Set clock, TV mode, language, USB functionality, and reset setup. While it appears that the LCD has touch buttons, the actual buttons are physical buttons located on the bottom of the mirror. Just hit the record button, and that's all you need to do to have the dashcam working. When the dashcam powers back on, it continues doing the last function it was set for. This shows the dashcam powering down when the car's 12-volt outlet is shut off. There's a view of the KDLinks R100 attached to the rear mirror, and also the Street Guardian attached right underneath the autopilot sensor box. Here's a close-up view of the Street Guardian. Both of these dash cams seem to offer a fairly discreet installation. An improvement I'd like to see on the R100 dash cam is locating the MicroSD card slot from the top of the unit to the bottom, which would make it a lot easier to remove and insert when you need to copy these files to your computer. Okay, here we go. One big problem with the R100 is the visors bump into the mirror, because it's about an inch too wide on each side. Here are the pros of the KDLinks R100. First, it has a larger mirror than the original Model 3, and it makes it a lot easier to see out the back. Next, the built-in battery provides a parking mode feature, which includes motion and bump detection. The built-in battery lasts about 20 to 40 minutes unless it is hardwired or attached to a power bank. Next, license plates are a little easier to read because there's less of a wide angle. And lastly, it's a stealthy dashcam install. The KDLinks R100 cons include 2304 by 1296 doesn't seem much sharper than 1920 by 1080. Since it has less wide angle, objects are closer and may appear sharper for this reason. Another negative is that the angle is not as wide. The autopilot housing blocks some of the upper view. It has much more oversaturated and unnatural colors. And lastly, the visors bump into the dashcam. Here are the Street Guardian pros. It has more of a wide angle, which shows more view of the surrounding area, which is important for accidents. It also has more natural neutral colors, better night vision due to the Sony sensor, and it has a compact shape. Street Guardian negatives include harder to see license plates since the angle is wider. The dashcam itself has small buttons that are difficult to use, has a tiny LCD screen, and there's no parking mode. While I love the idea of the KDLinks mirrored dashcam, I can't get over the annoyance of the sunshades hitting it. I realized they had to make it generically big to fit over the average car mirror and leave enough room for the lens off to one side. Another thing that it has is a much smaller lens angle. The 1296p resolution is also not taken advantage of by the lens. I had compatibility problems with the odd resolution in my video editing software. So after using both of these dashcams for a couple weeks, I've decided to keep my original Street Guardian dashcam. For some additional tips, I would recommend getting a fast MicroSD card, UHS Class 3 or minimum of 30 megabytes per second. I would also say that 64 gigabyte cards are pretty cheap right now, so get at least that size. In the settings, make sure you have a recording loop time of 3+ minutes. I think it's better when you need to merge files together. It's a lot less work. The Model 3 was a fairly easy install. Hiding the wire under the headliner, rubber seals, and plastic bits was no problem. I did it for both the driver and passenger sides with equivalent results. To totally hide the USB wire, you may have to make some cuts in the trim panel next to the 12-volt power outlet. Right now I have the USB wire by the armrest hinge, and it's fairly unobtrusive. Tesla version 9 of their software will include a dashcam that uses the autopilot camera. I'm going to be testing this versus my dashcam in a future video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.